Hello, welcome. My name is Liz Krueger. I'm a state senator from the 28th District in Manhattan, and I'm going to be joined today by Diane Wenzler, who is the director and co-creator of the Benefits Plus Learning Center at the Community Service Society here in New York City. Diane has well over 20 years of experience advocating for New Yorkers' rights to government benefits. I've actually known Diane, I think, for 30 years. And CSS, Community Service Society, is an organization that's been fighting for decades to build a stronger, more equitable New York. They deal with some of the toughest issues facing our city, including inequality in healthcare and access to affordable housing and economic security. During this pandemic, they have continued to work by serving New Yorkers in need throughout the city in a variety of important ways, and I'm delighted that they have Diane here with us to present on one of the most crucial issues my office gets asked about every day, and I think probably throughout the city and state, people are struggling to get this information. Today, Diane is going to provide an explanation of workers' rights when it comes to unemployment insurance. She will cover traditional unemployment insurance and the expansion of unemployment benefits under the Federal CARES Act. I want to point out to people that this situation is continually changing and evolving. So this video reflects the most up-to-date information as of Friday, May 1st at 3 p.m. That's when we're taping. We hope the federal government will come through with more money and more benefit options that will extend longer. We know that the pandemic has had a heavy economic impact on our state, and since mid-March, New Yorkers have filed approximately 1.4 million new jobless claims. More broadly, over 30 million Americans have filed since mid-March. And we know that this has created an enormous backlog for our state agency, the Department of Labor, who is struggling to get adequate staff. We've hired 1,000 more workers for them, who's struggling to come up with a simplified system to try to help people determine what they're eligible for and get them their benefits as quickly as possible. But we also know that there are a lot of angry and frustrated people out there who are waiting for their return call, waiting to hear something in the mail, or just don't even understand what's going on because we went from one unemployment benefit package to a number of different packages that may interact with each other. So these numbers likely understate how severe the crisis is because the data doesn't include self-employed, gig economy workers, part-time workers, as well as people who don't know that they qualify for jobless benefits and who have not yet been able to file a claim. So I'm hoping if you're listening or watching this, you will think about the people you know who may or may not have even tried to apply for unemployment benefits and urge them to do so. They may be eligible for money they didn't know they were eligible for, and this is the time to go get it because everyone needs it desperately. But also understand there will be some frustrations. And at the end of this, we will have listed resources of places you can reach out to for help and assistance if you do try to apply for benefits and are not successful. I want to acknowledge the major flaws with our access to benefits. My office has heard from hundreds of people who've reported a plethora of challenges with access. We're taking notes on everything you've reported, from clogged phone lines to weeks of pending status on client claims. We are trying our best to follow up with the state government on this. I recognize these issues are real and massively complicated. That's why I'm doing this Zoom webathon today. Along with a few of my colleagues, we have sent letters to the Department of Labor requesting they waive the phone call requirement and waive the work search requirements because it doesn't really make sense at this moment in history. My staff have also reported issues to the governor's office and asked that they escalate the rate at which they respond to outstanding claims. And while this video does not solve the problems our state faces regarding access, I'm hopeful that as we understand the intricacies of traditional unemployment insurance and the recent expansions under the CARES Act, all of us will be better advocates for ourselves and others in applying for and receiving the benefits that I know so many New Yorkers desperately need at this time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Diane Wenzler. She will be making a presentation. Then I will come back and we will go through some questions and answers of, we think, some of the most common issues that people are seeing. So now I'd like to introduce Diane Wenzler.
Thank you, Senator Krueger, for that introduction. And as she had said, what we're going to cover first is the basics of traditional unemployment benefits in New York State, so that we can better understand who's eligible for those benefits and then how the CARES Act expanded these benefits. So first of all, with traditional UI benefits, there is what is known as a benefit year. So when people first become entitled to traditional UI benefits, they will have 52 weeks in which to collect their benefits. But individuals can only receive up to a maximum of 26 weeks during that benefit year. So this means, for example, let's say you begin to collect unemployment benefits, and then 2 months later, 8 weeks later, you get a short-term job, a temporary job for a month. Well, during that time when you're collecting earnings from that temporary job, you're not entitled to any unemployment insurance benefits. But once that temporary job is over, you will be able to continue to collect your benefits, and you would have only used up 8 weeks of benefits, so that you would be able to continue to collect any of the remaining 26 weeks. Now, under traditional UI benefits, there is a minimum benefit amount of $104 per week and a maximum benefit amount of $504 per week. And our state legislatures are the ones who determine these benefit amounts. If individuals are interested in finding out what their benefit rate could be, the Department of Labor does have a benefit rate calculator that you can go to that is on the screen right now. Okay, qualifying for unemployment insurance. Again, this is traditional unemployment benefits. Must have lost a job through no fault of their own. They must have earned a certain amount of money over a certain period of time. And unemployment benefits are state administered. So here in New York State, an individual must have had earnings in at least 2 previous calendar quarters, been paid at least $2,600 in 1 calendar quarter, and total wages must be at least 1.5 times the amount paid in a claimant's highest quarter. Now, this particular rule has been relaxed under the expanded UI rules, so that you don't have to meet these requirements to be eligible for the expanded benefits, which I'll get into a little bit later on. You must also be ready, willing, and able to work. I'll cover a little bit more about that again below. Claimants must be employed by a covered employer. Again, these rules have been relaxed under the expanded guidelines. You have to be a lawful permanent resident, that's someone with a green card, or otherwise authorized to work. You have work authorization in the United States. You were legally working when the job was lost and are currently legally allowed to take a new job. Now, that requirement has not changed under the expanded guidelines. So often I get questions, are individuals without documentation eligible? They're not eligible for traditional unemployment benefits, nor are they eligible under the expanded criteria either. This includes individuals who work off the book. They are not eligible. Okay, what this slide shows, first of all, you can see on the bottom over here, there's something called calculate. So individuals would be able to go to this page and calculate, have an estimated benefit amount calculated here. But this also shows you your what is called basic base period, which is the first 4 quarters of the last 5 completed quarters. So you see, it's not including this 5th quarter. And unemployment, the Department of Labor typically bases your benefit amount on the individual's basic base period. So currently, the most recently completed 5th quarter ended on March 31st. So if they're going to be basing your benefit amount, they're going to be looking basically at January through December of 2019. Now, the reason why I say this, and to be mindful of this, 1, this doesn't apply under the expanded benefits. 2, if an individual is eligible for traditional unemployment benefits, New York State will always evaluate them under those guidelines, and if eligible, will receive traditional unemployment benefits. They will not get what is known as pandemic unemployment assistance, the expanded guidelines. They will get the traditional benefits. If that individual, and as I said, they base your benefit amount on that basic base period. If an individual believes their benefit amount would be greater if they use the 5th calendar quarter, okay, and then the previous 3 quarters, in this situation, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, that's called the alternate base period, and the individual can request from the Department of Labor to change it to the alternate base period if they believe their benefit amount would be higher. The only thing you want to keep in mind with that is if you do decide to use the 5th alternate quarter, then you would not be able to use that quarter in any future unemployment claims. Okay, so the CARES Act. Now, the rest of this presentation is going to be about how unemployment expanded under the Federal CARES Act. So there are basically 3 benefits that are provided through this expansion. 1 is pandemic unemployment compensation. And this basically expanded the amount of benefits that an individual can receive. Pandemic unemployment assistance, which expanded the guidelines or loosened the guidelines so that more people would be eligible for unemployment benefits. And pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, which expanded the amount of time a person can receive the benefits. And I'm going to go through each of these one by one. So first, let's look at the pandemic unemployment compensation. As I said, it provides expanded benefits. So an individual who is eligible will receive an additional $600 per week. So that's $2,400 per month for 4 months beginning April 5th and ending July 31st. So this expanded benefits will end on July 31st under the CARES Act unless Congress changes that. Now this benefit, this additional $600, is for both traditional beneficiaries as well as the expanded program, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So everyone who is approved for benefits will get this additional $600 in addition to the regular UI benefit or the regular PUA benefit, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now, this also includes individuals who receive at least $1 in partial benefits. And what I mean by that, and I'll explain a little bit later on, some individuals may only be working partially during the week and are still eligible for a partial unemployment benefit. Well, if they're getting even just $1 in partial benefits, they will be able to get that full $600 in pandemic unemployment compensation. Now, once an individual is approved for benefits, either PUA or regular unemployment, no additional action is required. It is automatically granted. You do not have to apply for this benefit. It will come to you in the same way you get your unemployment benefit. Now, this $600 is not used when you determine eligibility for Medicaid, the Essential Plan, or Child Health Plus here in New York State. And we just received word this past week that HRA received guidance telling us that both traditional unemployment benefits and pandemic unemployment compensation benefits will be counted as unearned income for cash assistance or SNAP benefits. We have not heard word yet whether or not it would be counted for SSI benefits, so I can't address that particular issue. Next, I want to talk about pandemic unemployment assistance, PUA. Now, this has expanded the traditional UI benefits to those who are not usually eligible to apply for unemployment. But it is a temporary program. Again, it will only last through December 31st, 2020, unless Congress acts again. Now, you will notice that the minimum benefit amount for PUA is $182 per week. That's different from traditional UI benefits. Traditional UI benefits, as I mentioned before, is $104. Well, this is a slightly higher. That's because it's a different formula that is being used according to federal guidelines. Okay? But the maximum payment is the same as for traditional UI, and that's $504 per week. And as I mentioned before, PUA recipients will also be entitled to the pandemic unemployment compensation of $600. So what I want to talk a little bit about is which workers who were traditionally not eligible, who are now eligible for this. So it includes those who are self-employed, independent contractors, freelancers, gig workers, and others who are unable to work as a direct result of COVID-19. The financial guidelines, as I mentioned before, have been loosened. There's no minimum income. You have to have some income, but no minimum income. So if you have a very limited recent work history or limited earnings, you would likely be eligible for PUA. Okay, so even if you do not have sufficient wages to qualify for traditional unemployment. But again, I want to stress, if the Department of Labor determines you're eligible for traditional unemployment insurance, that is the benefit you will get. Okay, who qualifies? This is something that the Department of Labor has put out, and I'm going to go to it and hold on for a minute. So this just is a quick fact sheet on who is covered under the pandemic unemployment assistance. The key that you will notice is that it has to, if you're not eligible for traditional benefits to be entitled to PUA, it has to be related to COVID-19. Okay? And there's the website for you to go to. Just want to say a couple of things about this. Employees whose employers have temporarily closed down. So there's many businesses who expect to come back after non-essential workers are able to re-enter the workforce. And so their workers have been furloughed. These individuals can also apply for unemployment benefits. Employees whose hours have been reduced. So you may have someone, well, they reduced my hours and I'm not getting full pay. Would I be eligible to apply? And the answer is yes, if they work less than 4 days a week and earn less than $504 per week. So if those two criteria are met, they would be able to apply for unemployment benefits and receive partial benefits. And remember, if they receive partial benefits, they're entitled to the full $600 under the pandemic unemployment compensation. Oh, and this I just showed you on the website. Just want to mention, Senator Krueger had mentioned that these guidelines, the website, procedures are changing. That's very true. Just this past week on Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Labor has been releasing guidelines to the state in terms of how to implement the PEUC benefits. So they too have lots of questions, not only us who are trying to get onto these benefits, but the states have questions as well. And two of the things I want to point out. Individuals who have taken unpaid medical leave may be able to collect if they took leave for reasons related to COVID-19, or if they can't work because they are the primary caregiver of a child whose school year has closed. So each of these individuals, these scenarios, individuals would be eligible to apply for PEUC. In the last case, if once the children go back to school or the school year ends, absent some other qualifying circumstances, they would no longer be entitled. So they would have to meet another qualifying factor to be eligible for the benefit. So who does not qualify? A couple of things. Employees who telework with full pay. So those who are working remotely. I know I'm working remotely, I'm getting my full pay, so I don't qualify. Individuals who are receiving sick leave or other paid leave benefits. Now that's different. If you're not getting paid, if your paid benefits are now over, you would be eligible to apply for PEUC. And one of the things that has come up quite a bit is quitting your job because of COVID-19. Well, the only way you could traditionally get unemployment insurance benefits is if you quit with good cause. And of course, the Department of Labor makes the determination of whether or not you quit with good cause. But if you quit without good cause, and you apply for benefits aren't approved, and they find out, Department of Labor finds out there was no good cause, then that could be considered fraud. And that's pretty serious because you could be subject to fines and paying back benefits if you're receiving benefits fraudulently. One of the things that people do ask about, so an employee refuses to return to work because they are at high risk of complications from the virus, they're high risk factors, and their employer does not make any type of reasonable accommodations for them, or if they're being asked to return to work at reduced hours that results in them earning less than they did before the pandemic, they could quit with good cause and obtain benefits. The important thing to keep in mind is if you're going to quit your job because of COVID-19, you must contact your employer, indicate recommendations, preferably from a medical professional, recommendations from this medical professional that you need to have at work so that you can go to work safely. If the employer refused to accommodate those recommendations, then that is good cause. So the best way to do this is not via phone call, but through some kind of written correspondence, preferably email, so you have this proof that you attempted to work with your employer to accommodate your risk factors. This is something else that I want to point out. So, as I mentioned before, there were a number of workers, freelancers, gig workers, self-employed, who are not traditionally eligible for unemployment insurance. But they lost their jobs in going back as far as January 27, 2020. And they may have applied for UI benefits, were turned down, or maybe they never even applied for UI benefits because they knew they were not eligible. Okay, these individuals should go ahead and apply for unemployment benefits because they may be eligible under the PEUC guidelines. So you shouldn't hesitate about applying if all of this happened prior to the outbreak here in the United States and prior to the passage of the CARES Act, which was March 27th. All right, so next I want to talk about the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. And this is the one that has expanded the time frame. So the traditional unemployment insurance is 26 weeks, right? This expands it by an additional 13 weeks. So it goes from 26 weeks to 39 weeks. This is for both individuals who receive traditional unemployment as well as those who are eligible under PEUC. Now again, this is a benefit that will only last through December 31st, 2020 unless Congress acts. Now this additional 13 weeks will include claimants who remain unemployed after their state's UI benefits end, including those who are on PEUC, whose unemployment benefit year expired after July 1st, 2019, and those whose benefit year has not yet expired, and whether they've exhausted their 26 weeks of unemployment benefits or not. And in the next slide, I'm going to explain how that works. Okay, so let's talk about individuals whose benefit year has not yet expired. Okay, so there still has those 52 weeks. But an individual may have exhausted the 26 weeks of benefits and therefore were no longer entitled to receive unemployment. Well, they can get these additional 13 weeks. The claimant will receive a letter from the Department of Labor advising them to begin certifying again. And even if they do not get a letter, they should begin certifying again. What about you have a claimant who has not exhausted their 26 weeks of benefits? Okay, so they may have received 10 weeks of benefits and then they found employment, and so they stopped claiming unemployment insurance benefits. Well, they technically have 16 weeks left in their benefit year, and now they have lost their job again. Okay, so they would be able to get those additional 16 weeks that they were entitled to, plus the 13 weeks under the expanded unemployment compensation. What about individuals whose benefit year expired after July 1st, 2019? They should file a new claim. Okay, they're not going back into their old claim. They have to file a new claim to receive the 13 additional weeks. These individuals should also receive a letter in the mail from the Department of Labor. Okay, but even if they do not, they should go ahead and file a claim. All right, so now I want to spend some time on filing a claim. And the first thing I want to note is that the experience of claimants applying for the unemployment insurance or pandemic unemployment assistance varies from one claimant to another. I've worked with a number of people, my coworkers have, others have, and it varies. It depends upon when they applied, how they applied, whether they're eligible for traditional unemployment or whether they're eligible under PEUC. So there's really, at this point, no consistency. I think now that Department of Labor is really tightening up the system and making it more consistent, we may see that in the future, but going forward, there's hundreds of thousands of people who have applied in New York State. You're probably going to continue to see inconsistency. And as Senator Krueger mentioned at the beginning, this system is in flux and it has been changing frequently. Please keep that in mind as we talk about today's presentation. Okay, when to file. So people should file when they have worked less than 4 days and earned a gross income of less than $504. If you attempt to file and you indicate that you've worked 4 days or more or earned income 504, they'll say you're not eligible. They'll kick you out. Okay, how to file. Claimants, Department of Labor is now strongly recommending that you file online. Most phone applications are not being accepted, basically because you can't even get through to the claim center. So you should be filing online. There is an exception for those who cannot apply online. Maybe they do not have the equipment, or they're not tech savvy, or they do not speak English or Spanish. And there is the telephone claim center phone number that you can attempt to contact with their hours. So they are open 7 days a week. And then here is some information for those who are hearing impaired. There is a helper can call the telephone claim center with that phone number there, and then the TTY TDD, a phone number that they can call. Okay. Some people have been asking, well, how can I help people apply? Is there instructions? How does the Department of Labor handle that? They have some fact sheets, and here is a website that you can go to for that. Okay. So how to file a claim. So there's an introduction that the Department of Labor provides. I'm not going to go to it, but it just provides a basic overview about filing claims. And individuals must establish a NewYork.gov ID. This is a system where, paying for fines, like if car fines, or the New York State Department of Health, New York State Health Marketplace, you have to create a NewYork.gov ID. So if you had one in the past and you have it, you don't need to create it. You just need to put in your username and password. But if you do not one, you're going to have to create it. And the Department of Labor does say on their website that you have to file on the day according to the last name. And if a claimant missed their date, they should file on Thursday through Sunday. But I have to say, a coworker of mine was saying, oh, people are filing whatever day. They don't really seem to be minding which day you file on. So just want to let you know that, but they do state on their website to file according to the last name. The Department of Labor did create a new system for filing claims as of April 10th. It's a streamlined application. It's much shorter than the original application for unemployment benefits. Prior to April 10th, everyone, both PUA and traditional UI, were applying on the old website, and it did crash several times. It was overwhelmed. But they did create a new system, and I will be showing you that new system. Now, this new system will determine which program the individual is entitled to, whether it's traditional or pandemic unemployment assistance. And it will prompt the individual to answer questions that are specific to one of those programs. And here is, to log in, this is where you would visit. And the Department of Labor will process the application. Contact the claimant if any additional information is required. Now that typically is now going to be through the NewYork.gov ID account, which again, I'm going to show that to you. They may contact the claimant via a phone call, but most new applications, people will be contacted through their NewYork.gov account. This is just a page that the Department of Labor puts out in terms of have the following information when you're ready to file. So this means that you'll have everything in place so that when you go ahead and begin to file, you have all of that information. So you can see that there. Okay, so what I want to do here is bring you through a series of screenshots that will show you how to log in and complete the application. So there's the website for you, the unemployment.labor.ny.gov login. You click on the login, and you will be brought to the right side of your screen to the NewYork.gov ID. And this is where you put in your username and password, if you have one. If you've forgotten it, you can click on the Forgot It. And if you haven't created an account in the past, you would click on Don't Have an Account, and they will bring you through a series of questions to complete so that you can have a username and password. Once you have the username and password and you sign in, you can file for a claim. There are 10 pages to this streamlined application. As I said, it's much shorter than the original application. I'm not going to go through all of the pages. This is just a sample that they ask you. Here's more on that. Upon completing the application, you will get a confirmation notice with a confirmation number. This is very important that you print it or screenshot it or put down your confirmation number, because when you want to contact the Department of Labor, you want to use that confirmation number to communicate to them. Okay? Individuals should also receive this confirmation notice in their account's inbox, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on. Some people have gotten a confirmation notice immediately upon completing the application. Some people only get it in their inbox. Again, everyone's experience is a little bit different. When an individual is not found eligible for unemployment insurance, traditional UI, they will receive an additional set of questions that they must answer. Now, for those individuals who have filed April 10th or later on the new system, will typically receive a link in their inbox on their NewYork.gov account. Okay, so this is an example of an individual who filed, I believe, on April 15th, and 3 days later, on April 18th, he received notice in his inbox saying that he might be eligible for PUA and that he needed to click the link below to complete the application, and which is what he did. He did it immediately. Okay. Now, again, this is just samples. This is not what it looks like now. The Department of Labor has redesigned their website. These are old screenshots, but the questions are the same. Okay. Here, did your place of employment partially or fully close as a direct result of COVID-19, and on what date did it close? So here is an indication of the date of closure. Here's again just a sample of questions that they ask. And then if people have to upload any documents, this is the place where they would do it. Sometimes they ask for supporting documents such as for those who are self-employed, the 1099. And then they sign off on this application. Now, upon completing this PEUC application, they should be receiving a confirmation, an application confirmation. So this individual, you can see, successfully completed their application on April 18th. You will also note that this confirmation summary will not appear again. So they do recommend that you print it or screenshot it for your records. Okay, now, when an individual is found eligible, they will receive notification to begin weekly certification. They'll get a message in their inbox. And here is an example of that message that they get from the Department of Labor. And it indicates, hey, we received your claim. It's complete. There's no need to speak to an agent. What you have to do is, you'll see step 1, claim weekly benefits. Okay? Now, individuals I think this applies more for individuals who are eligible for traditional unemployment than PEUC. That's what my experience has been, but as I said, experiences vary. But Department of Labor should also send a monetary determination notice through U.S. mail informing them of their weekly benefit rate, the base period used to establish their claim, and the employers and wages used to calculate their weekly benefit rate. This is important for those who are receiving traditional unemployment because, remember, Department of Labor bases it on the basic base period. But if you want it based on the alternate base period, the most recently completed calendar quarter, because you received higher earnings, you would then have to notify the Department of Labor to change it to the alternate base period. Right. Now, there are a number of people who submitted claims prior to April 10th. Those claims are still outstanding, as we know. Their claims are pending, and they were told to call the call center to finish their application. They are now being told not to call. Instead, the Department of Labor will contact the individual directly, or they may receive notice on their account in their inbox. What this slide is just if you're having any type of trouble logging into your account. Here is they have a fact sheet on tips for problem solving, or there is a phone number that you can call. I say this throughout the training. All claimants should check their inbox daily and respond to any questions or instructions that appear there. Okay, so I've been talking about the claimant's inbox. This is where the Department of Labor will contact the individual. And so when you go into your account, Okay, it's a newly designed web page, and there's different boxes, but one of the boxes shows messages. And under that, you can see go to my inbox. And this is where the Department of Labor contacts the claimant. So you would click on that. And when you get to it, there's the Secure Message Center, and there are the messages from the Department of Labor. This is an important message. This was the one that contained the link to go to complete the PEUC questionnaire. Okay? In addition to the Department of Labor contacting you, the claimant himself or herself can contact the Department of Labor. So there is a message inbox, and when you click on that, the box opens up, and you can see you can compose a message. You can write an email to them. Okay? You can also track what messages you have sent, any deleted messages, and online forms. Now, they do warn you that you should only send a message on a particular problem once. If you keep resubmitting the same question time after time, it just causes further delay. Department of Labor answers the questions in the order in which they are received. But when you write your message, it's very important you indicate what your confirmation number was, the date you filed, whether or not your claim is pending, whatever problems you're having. Try to be as brief and succinct as possible when you're writing to the Department of Labor. Okay. Some people ask, how do we check the status of a claim? So again, you have to log into your account. Now, if the account indicates that the claim is pending, they say the claimant is not required to take any action. That's not necessarily true. We're being told by the Department of Labor that even if your application is pending, you should begin the certification process. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. If the claim is denied, okay, let's say you applied prior to the new system, they're saying you should complete the PEUC application link if it's there. If there is no link, the Department of Labor is recommending that you apply on the new system. So again, here you are. You would go to Unemployment Services on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can see there's something that's called View Payment History. Okay, so when you click on Unemployment Services, all these different services will come up: file a claim, claim weekly benefits, view payment history, direct deposit, etc. But you would click on Unemployment Services, and when you get there, you would click on View Payment History. This is where you're going to check the status of your claim. Okay, and what will come up is this official record of your benefit payment history. Now you'll notice when this person's start date is 4/13. Remember, this is the individual who applied on April 15th. The benefit year end date, April 18th, 2021. Okay, weekly benefit amount, they haven't figured that out yet. Okay, and it says here, your claim is in pending status. No payments have been made on your claim. Okay, and that was, you can see, as of last week. Okay. What I want to cover with you now is some helpful filing tips. The New York State Department of Labor has a Twitter account where they have some information that may be valuable, but also people have been responding and have put in their own experience. You may find some helpful information there. If you're sheltering in another state, you must notify the Department of Labor that you're no longer in New York State, and you would send notification via the secure email. Okay, so they must approve, the Department of Labor must approve if you are sheltering in another state, they must approve whether your entitlement to benefits. If you're residing outside of the country, you left the United States, this is likely to be problematic if the Department of Labor finds out about it, and the person may be fined and denied benefits. Include phone number in the application so Department of Labor can contact you. Honesty is the best policy. If there is a dispute, if the Department of Labor says, hey, this is not correct information, you put incorrect information down, you will be able to explain why you put that information down. You will have a defense. So that's very important that when you put down the information, you are putting down, as honest answers, and that you will be able to explain to them why you put down that information. If the Department of Labor finds that it was inaccurate and you don't have a proper defense, it could trigger all kinds of penalties. Check your inbox daily. I've talked about that. The Department of Labor, a representative calls the claimant. Okay, so many Department of Labor representatives are working from home, so their caller ID may show a private caller. That's one thing to keep in mind. And anyone calling from the Department of Labor will verify their identity by providing the date of the claim that the individual filed and the type of claim that was filed. This is very, very important. If anyone calls up from the Department of Labor and asks for your Social Security number, or asks for your confirmation number, or asks for your filing date, all of that is triggers to you that they are not from the Department of Labor, and you should not provide that information. Contact a local elected official, especially for those that have been logjammed for quite a while. I know Senator Krueger was mentioning at the start that her staff have been handling a number of issues around unemployment. Okay, receipt of benefits. When found eligible, Department of Labor states that the first payment will generally be made 2 to 3 weeks from the time they filed their claim. I think it's more when they're found eligible as opposed to when they filed their claim, because so many PEUC cases are being pended and it's taking weeks and weeks. Claimants, as I mentioned before, should certify for benefits while waiting for their application to be processed. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Any claim filed will be backdated to the date the claimant became unemployed. Okay, again, I showed you in the previous slide the date that the Department of Labor has determined when your benefit year begins. So any benefits that that individual will receive, even if it's 8 weeks from now when they determine eligibility, benefits will be backdated to that April 13th date. The first payment you receive should include the retroactive benefits. And the claimants will receive benefits either direct deposit or with a bank debit card. Okay? It's their choice. Weekly certification. This also is very important. Claimants must certify weekly to obtain benefits. Typically, you are able to do it via the phone or online, but right now, it's best to certify via, during the application process, claimants were prompted to create a PIN, which they'll have to use when certifying. What I want to show here, many PEUC applicants whose case is pending has received no notice from the Department of Labor that they must begin claiming or certifying for their benefits. This is a problem because on their website, and you can see on the top of the slide there, the web page in which I found this information for PEUC beneficiaries. On the fourth point, it says you must claim benefits for each week you are unemployed and seek benefits, even during the period you are waiting to be approved. So very important that you do that. That has always been true for traditional unemployment insurance, and they are stating here that it's also true for your PEUC applicants. I know I did have someone who, she applied right from the very start, and she was told to start claiming her benefits, and she does that every week. She hasn't received approval yet, but she does claim every week. Okay, so where do you claim? Again, when you go to your page, your account, unemployment services, and there it is, claim weekly benefits, and you would click on that. Okay. So individuals should report any work activity during the previous week when claiming your benefits, including any part-time, temporary, or even unpaid jobs. They want you to report this work activity. If you're not getting paid, you would indicate that, but you do need to report it. If not reported, again, there are possible fraud charges. Work requirements. So, as we know, if you are applying for unemployment insurance, claimants must be ready, willing, and able to work. Now, the Department of Labor has not issued any real clear guidelines on work activity or work search activity requirements. And as a matter of fact, I have not spoken to anyone who has received any message from the Department of Labor about these work search activities. But there is a statement on their website that does say the following. We understand that many of you are unable to work due to COVID-19 pandemic and the impact of New York State on pause. If you would otherwise be able to work, you should answer yes in the order to receive your benefits. Okay, and these last few slides are just where you can get help. The Legal Aid Society, there's the phone number that you can reach them, Volunteers of Legal Services, NYLAG is also providing assistance, and New York City Legal Services. I'm sure there are others. These are the resources that I have found that are dealing specifically around unemployment issues, as well as some other issues as you see here. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Senator Krueger again for the Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much. That was so informative and a little overwhelming. It reinforced what I said at the beginning, that this is some really complicated stuff. And you can get frustrated, but don't get frustrated. Get more information for yourself and make sure that you are following through correctly. So there's quite a few questions. Let me just start with a few, if that's okay. So if someone has been denied traditional unemployment insurance before the CARES Act was fully implemented, but they believe they are eligible for PUA, should they be applying now to the Department of Labor? Yes.
Yes, they should definitely be going online and applying. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So I know one person who did that. They were told they weren't eligible for traditional unemployment. They weren't told anything about PUA, but suddenly $600 started showing up in their mail. What are they supposed to do now? Should they check online to see if they have an account?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I would definitely do. I would go into, well, they should go into their account, right? They had to have created an account. and check on their status and view their payment history. So there were, near the end of the webinar, there was a series of questions, a series of slides showing you how to get into view your payment history. And there you will be able to check that out in terms of what's going on. So when the claim was, when their benefit year began, when it ends, and their payment amount. So yeah, that's what I would do. If they're not getting anything other than the $600, they should be getting at least $1 in PUA in order to get the $600. They may want to communicate to the Department of Labor through the secure email messaging system.
Oh, okay, great. If I also receive SNAP or SSD or other benefits, how is this new $600 federal benefit going to impact my eligibility to hold on to those benefits?
Right. Okay, so the $600 will not impact any what they call insurance-based benefits. So benefits like Social Security retirement benefits, or Social Security survivor benefits, or Social Security disability insurance benefits. That $600 is not going to impact those benefits at all. The $600 will not impact Medicaid or Child Health Plus, so it will not be counted when determining eligibility for those benefits. But it will be counted for SNAP benefits and cash assistance, as well as the traditional benefits. Traditional benefits are going to be counted for Medicaid and Child Health Plus as well. We haven't found out yet about Supplemental Security Income, SSI. So I have a feeling, but it's just a feeling, that it will be counted, but no official guidance yet on SSI.
So sometimes a child could have SSI in the household where the adult was the working person who has lost their job. So would the child's SSI count against the unemployment benefits for the adult who lost their job? Or is it only if you're on SSI and work?
Yeah, the SSI benefits the child received doesn't impact the unemployment benefits. But would the the traditional unemployment insurance, because it's a parent, they're legally responsible for the child, so a portion of that income could be counted. I mean, that gets pretty complicated. It doesn't make the child ineligible. It all depends upon how much income is in the household. But I don't know about, this is what's unknown, how that extra $600 a parent gets would impact the child's SSI benefit. That is something that is unknown at this point.
So I did want to bring up, and you talked about a little bit. Oh, go ahead, Diane.
I just wanted to say, as far as I know, it's unknown. There may actually be information that I haven't found. So I wanted to.
There's more we all don't know than we know. We're just doing our best. But on that theme, I want to emphasize to people watching this, you may be facing unemployment for the first time in a very long time in your life. You may not be that familiar with other government benefits that are out there when you hit bad times. And I want to emphasize to people, if you've never imagined applying for a program called SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, this is absolutely the time to do so now. This is money that comes through the federal government, provides you a credit debit card to purchase food for yourself and your family, just like everybody else is using credit or debit cards at their food stores. It's additional money that people should not fear at all applying for, because they may be eligible. And there's also some expanded SNAP benefits at this time. So I'm hoping everybody who's considering unemployment benefits because they need them will also stay open to applying through the city's HRA administration for SNAP. It can all be done over the phone and mail now, and it's a terrific benefit.
And also, Access HRA, you can apply for SNAP benefits through that as well.
That's right. So online or by the phone. So again, you can stay home, stay safe, and still be applying for benefits that your family needs. And by the way, when you expand SNAP, you're actually helping America's farmers who are in really bad shape right now, because the more money that is spent buying food in our food stores, we are also doing a service to upstate New York farmers and farmers all over the country. So I just wanted to throw that in at this time. If you've completed your claim online and you've not received a determination or any benefits started to flow, what should you do next?
If you have, well, I think the most important thing to keep in mind, if you have completed an application, you should have received a confirmation page with a number, okay? If you have not received that confirmation page, I would restart the application. I would do it over. You want that application page, confirmation page. If you have received that confirmation page, then what you want to do is, again, check your status in terms of, that slide I showed near the end, in terms of what your benefit year is, what you're entitled to, whether or not your status is pending. That's where you're going to find information about your pending status, or you may even find saying that you were denied. So that's what you would need to do.
And that would be really critical to know that, so that you could get some help from one of the resources we've been listing.
Yes.
Or perhaps you made a mistake the first time you filed, but the second time, now that you have all this good information under your belt, you'll get your application done correctly and you won't get rejected again. So that is really important. Thank you.
Right.
Some questions that my staff have seen in our office. So I'm a freelancer, a music teacher. Some of my previous employers did not report my work or wages. In other words, I know I was working off the books, but that's the way they did it. Am I eligible for jobless benefits?
No. Off the books, yeah, unfortunately. If you have anything, even limited, if something was reported, or if you reported as a self-employed individual, let's say you created something for yourself and you have self-employed, you would be able to file. But if you don't have any if you didn't establish yourself as self-employed, or you don't have any type of earnings record, then no, you would not be eligible.
I was afraid that was the answer, but that was why we needed to ask you the question. So what my place of employment closed down due to COVID. I'm eligible for jobless benefits, but I now have the opportunity to work 1 day a week on a project as a freelancer. Will accepting partial work impact my benefits?
Well, it will reduce your benefit amount, right? So if you work 1 day a week, your benefit will be reduced by 1/4, okay? But you will continue to receive the full $600. That will not be impacted. So, so the answer is yes and no.
Okay, but it's still likely the amount of income you'd get from that 1 day of work a week would be greater than what you lose in benefits, so it would make sense for you.
Right, it would make sense. And also, under unemployment rules, if you're offered a position, okay, unless it's more, like I think a 10% decrease in your salary, if you're offered a position and you don't take it, they don't like that. That's part of the rules is you have to accept employment. Yeah.
Right, and I did want to emphasize how important it is to try to stay on top of the rules about what you have to report, because it is possible that they will afterwards find that you did something wrong and you'll deal with that. But the best answer is to report all the things that are happening during this time period.
Right.
And don't assume something terrible happens because you need to report it.
Right. And
Right.
I also want to really stress, a lot of people think, oh, I'm working now and I'm working 5 days a week and but it's a temporary position. But hey, this is great. I don't have to certify. No. Department of Labor wants you to certify every single week, whether you're working or not, whether you're getting pay or not. You must certify. That's very, very important.
Thank you for reemphasizing that. That's another question. So I was employed last year and claimed unemployment for a few months. I thought I had exhausted my benefits. Am I eligible for the 13-week expansion now?
Yes, right. I talked a little bit about that. So did he say his benefit year was up or was not up?
Yeah, he said it was last year and that he claimed unemployment. He thought he had exhausted his benefits. We're not sure, but he thought he had. So that's why
Right.
the question now that this has happened, is he
Okay.
eligible for the 13 weeks?
Okay. So if he did use up his 26 weeks, right, that he's allotted in his benefit year, we have to find out what date his benefit year ended. So if it ended at July 30, after July 31st, then he has to file a new claim. If he's still in that benefit year, he needs to, he should receive a notice from the Department of Labor. That may not happen, but he should go in, if he's in his benefit year still, he should go into his count and begin certifying again. Now, we've been hearing that there could be some problems with that, and the Department of Labor is not accepting them. I think they've been made aware of the problem and hopefully are working on it. But people should go in. If it's not working, notify the Department of Labor via the secure email. That's one of the best things that you can do to kind of protect your benefits.
So a lot of the discussion has been around people who are waiting and waiting and waiting to hear from the Department of Labor. This was somebody saying they'd been told their claim will be backdated to the date they became unemployed. But how
Yes.
will they prove they applied at the correct time if there were all kinds of technical glitches and delays at Department of Labor?
Okay. From what from what I understand, and something that I saw once from a claimant, okay, you actually indicate the date in your application when you became unemployed. So if it was March 30th, you would put down March 30th, even if you are now applying on May 1st. Okay?
Right. And will you be found retroactively eligible for that $600 from the feds going backwards also?
Yes, you would, but only back to April 5th.
Because that's when it started.
Yes, because
Right.
that's when it started.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And also people have asked, well, what if I only become unemployed in June? Would I get 4 months of the $600? No, unfortunately not. You
Yeah.
only are entitled up through July 31st, at least as, Congress has it now, the CARES Act, unless Congress acts. Yeah.
Although if you start in June, we're still going to be eligible for the 13-week
Yes.
extension if you
Yes.
need it at some point in the
Yes.
future.
Right.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
that goes through December 31st, 2020. You would get 39 weeks during your benefit year, because if you became unemployed in June, your benefit year is through, let's say, May 31st. So you would be entitled to the 39 weeks. Yeah.
Got it. You have been so amazingly helpful, Diane. I really appreciate your joining with us today. I don't know how long we've gone on, a lot longer, I think, than we originally planned. Perhaps this will get edited down in some way, but I want to thank you. I want to thank the Community Service Society for being smart enough to have you on staff doing the work you've been doing for so long. We're going to be posting Diane's presentation on my website along with this video. Links can be accessed from the slides that we saw here and will be on my website. You can also find help in New York City, again, with food, cash assistance, and more benefits through access.nyc.gov, a website. And you can, of course, always reach out to my office. The best way right now, because we're also all under lockdown, is to email me at liz@lizkrueger.com, which I think will also be at the website at the video at the end. And again, for those of you who are struggling, we want to be there for you in every way we can. We know that there are problems getting this all operating correctly, and as you've now seen from Diane, despite the efforts of government, it's pretty complex. And so you can get lost along the way, and we understand that. And that's why we want to make sure everyone has lots of resources they can go to, lots of ways they can learn. And again, my rule always with government benefits, if you know that you are in need and you believe you're eligible, don't take no the first time. Somebody could have made a mistake. It might be you, it might be them. Try again, don't give up. So again, on behalf of myself and my team, thank you very much for being with us whenever you turn on this video.